Good. Well, good afternoon. I'll call to order the regular meeting of Coachella Valley Water District Board of Directors, July 24th, 2025, here in Coachella. And would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Yes. Good afternoon, President Powell.
Here.
Vice President Estrada.
Here.
Director Bianco will be absent for today's meeting. Director Aguilar.
Here.
And Director Nelson.
Here.
Thank you.
Great. We have a quorum, and everyone who's here is physically in the room. That's good. Do we have any additions, deletions, or adjustments to the agenda?
No, sir, and nobody's trying to get my attention, so I'd have to continue to say
I
no.
think we do. Is there anybody from the public wishing to make comment at this time, recognizing we do have a public hearing, which will have opportunities for comment when that comes up, as well as other agenda items that will have opportunities when those come up. Hearing none. Consent calendar, items 5A through F. What is the pleasure of the board?
I would move approval of the consent calendar.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed 4-0 with one absent. I'm on another board where the chair just moves everything from the chair. It's really kind of nice, but I don't know if that's really the intent of that. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah.
I think you could do whatever you want.
You can do whatever you want. Yeah, I think so. It just cuts out a step, you know. You just keep talking. Oh, is that a little bit of a curveball for you, Jeremy? A little bit.
That's the new guy.
Okay, so we have this ordinance 7A, ordinance 1443 for adoption. Presenting is Samantha Lopez, our controller. Good afternoon.
That's Amy. Counterintuitive.
Good afternoon. My name is Samantha Lopez, and I am here to present or recommend the adoption of Ordinance 1443, which is adopting an administrative remedy procedure for challenges to fees, charges, and assessments, and adding a new chapter 5.10 to the CVWD code. Originally, this was adopted at the May 13th board meeting. We are back today to update and correct the ordinance number only. There are no changes to the ordinance content, requirements, or effective date. Staff recommendation is to adopt Ordinance 1443, which will replace Ordinance 1436.
Thank you. Did we all miss that, or was that was just the old number? Huh?
That was an oversight on the clerk's office.
We need to, we always, when we have an updated ordinance, we need to come up with a new number.
Correct.
It's just standard, yeah,
Yep.
okay.
And we had issued
Number we already used.
a number, 1436, which we had previously used. So
Right.
we needed to identify a new number.
Right, okay, thank you, thank you. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 1443?
Yeah, I'll move, John.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pass 4-0 with one absent.
Since this is an ordinance, we need a roll call vote.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank
so
you,
just
Jeremy.
checking to see if
Yeah,
you're
we're
paying
testing
attention.
you.
Way to go,
Jeremy.
Better late than never.
Yeah, I should have noticed that.
I should have
All
caught
right,
that.
well, let's do the roll call vote and see if it matches up with the other vote that didn't matter.
Okay, President Powell,
Aye.
Vice President Estrada.
Yes.
Director Aguilar.
Aye.
And Director Nelson.
Aye.
Thank you. I think it's the afternoon time that has us a little off.
Well, yeah, habit. Okay, that passed 4-0 with one absent. And next is our public hearing. David Lacey presenting on the canal water rates and charges for fiscal 25-26 and forward. Good afternoon. David.
Good afternoon, President Powell, members of the board. So this is our public hearing for canal rates.
So maybe I should, actually, I probably should do the script, right? Should I start with the script? Because I think I introduced you, right? I think I introduced you in the script. There's only one sentence. All right. So at this time, staff will provide a presentation on the adoption of canal service rates for charges for fiscal year 2026 to 2030 and approval of ordinance number 1437.6. Following the presentation, we will open the public hearing, making the presentation in person this afternoon is David Lacey, Finance Manager, and virtually Alan High Street from MBS Consulting. All right. Go ahead.
Great, thanks again. And so, yeah, this was our scheduled date for our public hearing for canal rates. For background, we started this process back in February, working with MBS and Colantano, Highsmith, and Watley to review the canal rates study. These rates would be the Prop 218 maximum rates effective for the next 5 years and with adoption for the rates for the 2026 fiscal year budget. And we have Alan High Street on the line, I believe, to go and do the presentation. And
Okay.
happy to answer any questions on that.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So again, Alan High Street with NBS. I'm principal consultant with NBS and been with them for 5 years, but also been in the business for doing these rates and things for over 45 years. So if we go to the first slide, in terms of where we are in the process,
Oh, here we go.
it should be one slide before that.
Perfect. Thank you.
So where we're at in the process is at our last session at the board on May 13th, we reviewed the canal water rate study and went over that and also answered your questions there. And then we asked for approval to start the 218 process. And we got that approved on May 13th. The actual Proposition 218 notices were mailed on June 6th. And so everybody's been noticed. So today, if the protest vote fails, the board can choose to enact the proposed rates that were included in the 218 notice or anything below that rate. But it does set the ceiling for what rates to be charged. And then also, future rates should be reviewed on an annual basis with the budget process. You've got a lot of big things that are happening and then decisions that are going on the Colorado River and things. And so, it's one of those things that you probably need to stay on top of with all the things that are happening. So if we can go to the next slide. So the objectives of the rate study when we started out at the beginning of the year were, one, first and foremost, develop rates that keep the canal fund healthy. But we also need to satisfy the appeal court judgment that had some challenges to how the rates were done in the past. And then we also wanted to have a cost of service methodology that's easily understood. One of the challenges that we had on the past studies was it was a little too confusing for folks to understand and track what was happening, and that was detrimental to you. And then the last item we wanted to do is just confirm that the cost of service is higher than the current rates. And so that was kind of our goals moving forward. So why don't we jump to the next slide? So what's different about this rate study versus your last couple of rate studies? Well, we actually eliminated the water supply surcharge. Those water costs now, all water costs are going to be considered the same, and we're not differentiating those. We're also going to combine the mussel surcharge into the irrigation water commodity charge. That mussel surcharge was based on acre feet sold, just like irrigation water commodity and this commodity charge, and that would simplify things. So the other thing we did that's differently is we applied non-rate revenue differently than done in the past. So earlier studies used the non-rate revenue to lower the rates by applying the non-rate revenues to the base costs so that every class shared in the reduction. In this, we actually applied the non-rate revenue to classes in different proportions. And we could do that. So that gave us the ability to kind of craft the rates that we felt were appropriate. Next slide, please. So one of the things we looked at when we reviewed revenues and expenditures and the projections of those revenues and expenditures was where you were at. And if you look at this chart, each of the columns there is a fiscal year. And if you look at the bottom, that reddish part of the column is your rate revenue, and the green is non-rate revenue, and then that the blue line is your expenses. And so you can see that we have generated more revenue than our expenses in the past, and we actually project it this year too. And part of that is driven by the curtailment revenues you've received. And so, and I know you've been adding that into your reserves going forward. And if we look at the curtailment revenues, they actually start dropping off. The last full year of curtailments is fiscal year 26, and you'll get 7 million in 27. But you can see once those drop away, then our revenue and expenses get to be pretty close. So you wouldn't be putting the same money into reserves and potentially using reserves. Next slide, please. So I know this is hard to read, but this is the financial plan out of the report. And it just goes in a little more detail in terms of the numbers that you saw on the previous graph. And again, if you look at it, some of the drivers for our expenses going up, one of the bigger things that is impacting you is you expect your total water purchases to go up pretty substantially over the next 5 years. So that's, on top of your other salaries and materials and things that are going up by inflation. That's going to be going up faster than inflation. And you also have some capital projects that you anticipate doing too that are looking ahead. So going forward, the need to increase rate revenue is going to be important. So that's kind of the basis of moving forward. So if we can go to the next slide. So I just wanted to add this slide in there because, again, we have used some discretion on how we use the non-rate revenue. And basically with non-rate revenue, you can use it to offset operating costs or funding capital improvements. Some agencies use non-rate revenue to subsidize low-income programs and for some of their residential customers. It can be used for emergency reserves or debt reduction. It can fund conservation and efficiency. The big thing is it just needs to be used in a way that benefits the water system and its customers. You can't really take it outside of the system. Those non-rate revenues need to be used within the canal fund enterprise. Next slide, please. So this is the summary of the rate table, and you can see that our comparison here in the table, we had the class is on the first column there, and then the current rate, and then next to it is the current rate with the Quagga mussel surcharge added in. So that would be the comparison to these future rates. And you can see then projected out over the 5 years what our rates would be proposing and what the increases would be. And you can see that those rates for agriculture are going to move up again in anticipation of some of those water purchases being higher and some of the capital projects being done. For the class 2, that actually has a drop, but it too increases significantly over the time period. And industrial water kind of does the same. Down below at the bottom box there, you can see the rates for the OASIS surcharge and the gate orders, both scheduled and unscheduled, as well as the outside, the Irrigation Improvement District 1 surcharge. And you can see that really there's a pretty significant bump in the scheduled gate orders cost as well as with the unscheduled. So, and that's going to be a cost that primarily impacts your class 1 users. So that's the rates that went forward in the notice. And, from here now, the last slide I have is just, is there any questions before you open up the public hearing?
Yeah, Alan, appreciate that. This is John. I was just noticing on slide 8 that there's no surprise with the rates as shown for class 1 on the difference between the current, including the quagga, and the 25-26 rate, which is a 4.15% increase. Okay, that's as expected. But then you go to the next year, and the year after that, the next year goes up, to 41.86. According to my quick look, that's about a 4.285% increase. I thought we were modeling this on a 3% increase.
The 3% is based on the average revenue required, and that's for everything that you see. So
the class 2 would be less.
So
Let's look at that.
what makes this a little bit hard in the math is each year you've got to apply non-rate revenue a little differently. We just don't lock in the percent there. And part of that is due because our projected water sales are different going forward as well.
Right. I know we're not really deciding rates for that year right now anyways. So I'm okay with it, but I want to take a closer look at those out years as we get into the spring of 2026 really is when it's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's important too. Just like I mentioned, you've got some pretty significant potential changes happening, right, for your water supply and the cost and that type of thing, or even availability. So it's important to look at this more than waiting for a 5-year.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common disconnect when we look at rates. We start out looking at what the fund needs to be whole based on the expenses. How much of a revenue increase do we need to cover the projected expenses? And then when we get into the rate design, there are various different factors or variables that will determine how much revenue we need to get from each of those different components that then combine for a 3% overall revenue increase. It's not that everything just increases by 3% because not everything is uniformly distributed.
And we'll get, we'll get a chance to take a closer look at those other years later.
Absolutely.
I think what really is important right now is the structure and then the rate for the year that we're looking at, starting in August.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at I think what Jim was saying, the way it looks to me is the revenue that's being generated by the rates doesn't appear to be much compared to the offset that we're doing with the taxes and the curtailment, right? So that it puts a lot of faith on that, right? It puts a lot of faith on the general property taxes, and it puts a lot of faith on those first 2-3 years of curtailment revenue. And so, in a way, it forces us to try to keep those revenues. Otherwise, it'll spike up in another way. And so, I just, you know, I think we need to be careful with those types of commitments, and but we can have those conversations as we go through the budget process.
Right.
Hey, Jim, could you remind me what's driving the total water purchases? It's $16 million in 29-30. It's 13.8 now. That's about an average of 5% a year. It's almost 20%.
Are you reading from a particular page, sir? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm on the financial plan, page 6.
Right in the middle.
And it's under the second area, uses of water funds,
On the
operating
presentation,
expenses.
not on the actual
Oh.
study.
Yeah.
Just this one right here,
The 1140, 13.8.
this line here,
Yeah,
water purchases.
I mean, in general, I didn't want to get into a lot of the detail, but
It's the inflator, right?
is that the inflator on the QSA water?
So you may recall the delivery schedule, right? And so in 2024, I think we were at 93.
Yeah.
2025, we're at 98, right?
Okay.
It goes up by 5,000
So we're
5,000 acre
going
feet.
up by 5,000.
Right, and then for 2026, it's the maximum, which is 103.
That's right.
So there's no additional water that comes in,
But
but
there's
the
the
rate
inflator.
changes.
Right, so we get that additional water in the first 2 years.
Correct.
And then the inflator is continuing to go up.
Yes, sir.
Got it. All right, makes sense.
Thanks, sir.
Joan, I have a question too. I'm not sure who this should be directed to, but you mentioned in one of the earlier slides that the study and at least the initial rate increases are being done in part to address the judgments from the courts, the appeal courts. Can somebody give me more detail on that?
I think Michael's on the line, right? He could do that?
Michael, are you there?
I'm here. Tell me the question again.
The question is, in the slide presentation from the consultant, it says that the study and the rates that we're looking at are designed to address the appeal court's judgment. And I'd like to hear more about that and how that is connected.
The Court of Appeal assumed that we argued in the Court of Appeal what we argued in the trial court, which is that you could distinguish between agricultural and other users of canal water based on a historical preference for canal users. That wasn't actually our argument in the Court of Appeal. That was our argument in the trial court. It was the argument our opponents preferred to defend, and that's what they claimed to the Court of Appeal we were arguing. What we in fact argued to the Court of Appeal was that nobody pays the cost of service for canal water because you use tax and other discretionary revenues to subsidize rates below cost. What Alan's work really does is state that more plainly, make that very clear, that nobody's paying the cost of service, that we're using discretionary revenues, and we're using discretionary revenues to maintain the status quo in terms of the ratio of rates in east and west and ag to urban, so as to avoid dislocating the regional economy as a sudden large increase in canal charges would do.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
I'll just add to that, and yeah, that's I think what I meant with the use of the property taxes, right? It seems that that's the pot of money that we use as a board to decide what rates we want to subsidize, and we have plenty of rates, right? We have a number of rates that we have to set, and so we just ought to think about how to use that in an equitable way but I think I understand the argument here is that we subsidize rates with property taxes. And so the question is, where do we put it? And that was the point I was trying to make.
Thank you. Is that the conclusion of the presentation?
That is at this point, unless we have any
Thank you.
additional questions.
Okay, great. All right, then this is the time and place fixed for a public hearing on the proposed rate increase for canal water for fiscal years 2026 through 2030, which is being held in accordance with the procedure provisions of Prop 218 and Assembly Bill 2257. Clerk Bermudez, have we completed proper notification of this public hearing?
Yes, Mr. President, notice of this public hearing and the proposed rate increase was given by direct mail to property owners and tenants of real property who may be directly liable to pay the charges for canal water on the district's website and by legal publication in the Desert Sun and Imperial Valley Press. As proof of proper notice of this hearing, it says I present, but I have here for news, the United States Postal Service Consolidated Postage Statement, standard mail, and proof of publication from the Desert Sun and Imperial Valley Press, and the affidavits of posting.
Thank you. Council, can you tell us the purpose of today's public hearing?
Yes, the requirements of Proposition 218 and Assembly Bill 2257 are being followed. The date and time of this public hearing is not less than 45 days after the mailing of the notice. The purpose of the hearing is to hear oral testimony and consider written protest concerning the proposed ordinance, which would authorize the adjustments to the rates. A customer or property owner is not required to provide oral testimony in order to submit a written protest. A written protest must specify that it is being submitted in protest, include the customer's or property owner's name, parcel number, and/or service address and signature. If written protests against the proposed rates are presented by a majority of the owners of the identified parcels upon which the rates are to be imposed, the board may not impose the adjustments to the rates. If written protests against the proposed rates are not presented by a majority of the owners of the identified parcel on which rates are to be imposed, the board may impose the adjustments to the rates if it decides to adopt the proposed ordinance. A written protest stating reasons is required for a later legal challenge to rates, and that challenge will be limited to the issues raised in the protest. The board will consider all protests and adopt written findings in response to substantive protests. As explained in the Prop 218 notice, the publications, and the agenda for this meeting, individuals wishing to address the board were given the opportunity to provide written comments in advance of the meeting via mail or email. Individuals may provide public comment during this meeting in person. Any protest submitted via email must include an image of the protestor's signature, and protesters must be received by the district prior to the close of the hearing.
Thank you. I hereby declare the public hearing open and will request that those wishing to speak please give your name and property location and limit your comments to 3 minutes. We will now hear from anyone who wishes to come forward to speak. Do we have any cards?
No, we did not receive any speaker cards.
Do we have anyone wishing to speak at this time? That didn't. Okay. Clerk Bermudez, do we have any written communications?
No, we have not received any written communications for this.
Thank you. At this time, I'm prepared to close the public hearing. However, before I do that, I'd like to provide anyone who would like to submit or withdraw a written protest the opportunity to do so. Once the public hearing is closed, state law prohibits us from accepting any further written protests. Are there any remaining written protests to be delivered to the board clerk? Seeing none, I hereby declare the public hearing closed, and we don't need to tabulate the written protests because there are 0, correct?
No, so we did. So written comments were not provided, but there is a section that I'll get to the tabulation.
Okay, thank you. All right. We will now have the written protests tabulated. Clerk Bermudez, have any written protests been received or tabulated to date? Just stick to the script. I got it. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. President, 2,107 notices were sent and 831 parcels have been identified that could be affected by the proposed canal water rate increase. In this instance, a majority protest would exist if the district received 416 written protest prior to the close of the public hearing. Prior to the close of the public hearing, the district received 7 written protests from qualifying owners and tenants of the identified parcels. A majority protest does not exist, and the board may proceed to consider adoption of the ordinance.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the board? No, I know we covered this earlier. At this time, the board is asked to consider the protest, the proposed written response to the protest, and the adoption of ordinance 1437.6, authorizing increases in the rates for canal water service charges.
Okay, so this is when we can talk about the protest, and I'm wondering if there were any substantial issues brought up in the written protest that would require a response from the board and staff.
So I believe Michael's on the line, and all copies of the protest were provided to Michael, to council for review. And I'll just let Michael respond after that.
All of the comments we got were effectively policy arguments saying the rent's too damn high, cut costs, don't raise my bills. There weren't any legal analysis. There weren't any consulting reports, wasn't accounting information. It was just, please don't raise my rates. And I think the staff report you've received today, which explains why the rate increases are necessary, are an adequate response to those comments.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Okay. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 1437.6?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second.
Roll call.
With no further discussion, hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Yes. President Powell?
Aye.
Vice President Estrada?
Yes.
Director Aguilar?
Aye.
And Director Nelson?
Aye.
Thank you.
So that passed 4-0 with 1 absent. Thank you, David. Thank
Thanks,
you,
David.
Michael. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate what you did, Alan.
Thank you.
45 years. You must have learned something along the way.
A lot of hard knocks.
It's a long time. Okay. So,
Hunt engineering.
on to number 9A.
I think you have all items on the agenda.
Sabrina, are you doing all of them? Why don't you just guide us through the rest of the 9 agenda?
We don't actually have to talk about any of them.
Go ahead.
Just need some votes.
The floor is yours.
Okay, I'll try and keep this as brief and concise, or if you want to talk about any of them, let me know. For the record, my name is Sabrina Neese, Engineering Manager for Domestic Water. The first item in front of you today is our request to authorize the General Manager to execute the First Amendment to the Domestic Water Emergency Interconnection Agreement with Desert Water Agency for construction of interconnection number 2. The original agreement was executed December 14th, 2012. We currently have $600,000, or we have $600,000 in this year's budget. The way that the agreement is structured is it's a 50% cost share, so we'll split the costs evenly with DWA. The reason that we're executing an amendment to the agreement is that the original agreement had CVWD as the lead agency for both interconnections. CVWD did take the lead for interconnection number 1 that was constructed. DWA is, however, taking the lead on this second interconnection for both the environmental, well, all of it, environmental design and construction. So that's really what's prompting this amendment in front of you today. I'd be happy to answer any questions or elaborate further.
Thank
So
you.
I just have, so is this a pipe?
Correct. Yeah, so it'll connect, it's an interconnection between DWA system and CVWD system. It's at Ramon Road and will cross under the channel near our CVWD's well site number 4529.
Near the well site, okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay. I'd move approval.
Second?
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pass 4-0 with 1 absent. On to B.
Okay. If I can can advance the slide presentation to the next one.
Could we please?
Yeah, there we go. So our next request is to approve solicitation of bids for construction of the domestic water chemical building repair project. The cost of this project is estimated at $200,000. It is currently included in our budget for this fiscal year. It includes replacement, the BAI says 10 sites, it's actually 9 sites. So it's replacement at 5 well pumping plants and 4 booster stations. And effectively, the stucco in those buildings is failing, and it's actually coming off in sheets. So we need to address that and repair the buildings. The project will be paid for using PAYGO funds. And if you have any additional questions.
I noticed some of our sites have, it's different depending on where they are. Some of them have like plywood that's painted, I think. I think those are our sites. And some of them are stucco. I mean, I'm just curious, you know. We do have painted plywood.
I'm not aware of those sites, but if
Really?
they're fairly old sites,
I
that
just
is
saw
entirely
one this
possible.
morning.
Yeah.
I don't remember where that was, but I drove by and I'm like, that's not stucco.
We used to build our own, and now we try to go toward prefabbing.
Yeah, okay. And that's stucco, so.
We also have, nice block stucco walls, and we have chain link fence. at
That's
different
kind of what I was thinking about.
locations.
I don't know which one's better in the long run. But I know that in some areas, they really want the stucco because it looks more like the surrounding.
Yeah, it's aesthetically pleasing, and same thing with the roof structure. Those are tile roofs.
Yeah, they look like little Taco Bells.
Little photo booths.
Photo booths, yeah. Oh, the photo mats, yeah. Remember those?
Yeah.
They do look
Drive
like
up and drop off.
whoever used to make those was going out of business until they found us. Okay. So, thank you. 9 sites
Yeah, correct.
with failing stucco for $200,000. Is there a motion to approve 9B?
Make a motion.
Second?
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Passed 4-0 with 1 absent. On to C.
Okay. Another request to approve solicitation of bids. This one is for construction of the hydropneumatic surge tank replacement program, Phase 3. Just as a brief reminder, we are doing an annual phase of the hydropneumatic tank replacement program. We have this included in this year's budget in the amount of $600,000. We have 2 of the tanks will be replaced entirely, and then 1 will be rehabbed. So that would be a slight difference from what you may have seen in previous years. We are trying to be cognizant of costs, and that's one way that we can monitor that cost. And then we will be using PAYGO funds for this project as well.
Yeah, I noticed one of them served, I think, 11 or 12 units. It's pretty small. Is that the most efficient way for us to manage that pressure?
Yeah, so these are smaller pressure zones, and with that, we have hydropneumatic stations, and so oftentimes those aren't serving a lot of customers. But unfortunately, that's, depending on the elevations that we're at, that is our only way of providing adequate pressure to those areas.
So when we have a new area that's being developed and it's in an elevated place, is there a developer fee that covers this? Because I know this is a pretty big number for so few homes.
So for newer developments, they would be conditioned to provide those facilities. The alternative that you see most often would be elevated storage. So that's almost always preferred by, I can say from engineering, absolutely, and operations as well, because it's the most simplistic method of operating the system. But in a small area like that, 11 connections or anything less, sometimes you don't have the ability to grade or build a reservoir, and it can be pretty costly.
So these service locations are above the tanks?
Yeah, or in between zones, so
In
where
between, yeah.
either they're gonna have too high of pressure or not high enough.
Too high, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So I guess if a developer were to pay a fee when at construction, then pays the fee, we put in the system, and then ongoing, we'd have the maintenance responsibilities for those facilities, right? So are these are just maintenance on existing facilities that could or may have had developers pay for these in the first place?
Yeah, so these are all existing facilities. One was built in 1999, the second in 2002. So effectively, the tanks that were originally installed are either at the end of their useful life or nearing it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, and I think we've seen a presentation a few years ago about how dangerous it is if they're not properly maintained. So
Pressure
I'm
vessels.
on board with that.
Yeah.
You know, they could blow,
Oh, yeah.
which is
Yeah.
not good. If the walls are not sufficiently strong.
Trust me, I've seen enough pressure tanks spewing out with wood jammed in it, trying to stop the water from.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
We can't do that here.
I don't think we want to do
I
that.
don't think we want to do that. What's that Flex Seal tape? We can just put that on there?
Gorilla tape?
It works in the commercial.
Engineering would not recommend that.
You sure? I mean, it looks really good.
Absolutely certain, yeah.
All right, so this is a fairly expensive item to do that, but it sounds like it's, I don't know what the alternative is. There isn't an alternative.
That's correct, yeah.
I'd move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second on 9C. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed 4-0 with one absent. On to D.
Our next request is to approve solicitation of bids for the Palm Desert Operations Parking Lot Rehab Phase 3 program. We have it in the budget for this year for $2.5 million. If you may recall, we have brought this item before you previously. It was included in last year's budget. The board elected not to construct it at that time. We're bringing it back in a request to construct this project. We did include some additional photos to maybe help convey the need for how important this project is, and that as each year progresses that we defer it, we will continue to spend more money for less.
Right. So I'm sure you're going to tell us we have a regular PM program for slurry seal and fixing potholes and all that. I mean, some of that's looked, the maintenance looked a little deferred on the photos that I saw.
I'm not aware of any such program, unless Dan is, of that type of maintenance.
We've had a few slurries.
Can you come to the podium, please? I know.
I mean, doesn't that, my point is that makes it last a lot longer. Come on up, Dan. I don't know what we're doing, because from the photos, it looks like maybe we're not doing it. That's what I saw.
Hi. So first of all, this is probably 30-year-old pavement. The pavement life cycle usually is 10 years, 15 years max. This probably should have been done years ago. It's separated to a point where you have 1 and 2 inch gaps. You can't put in, like potholes, we have a paving crew, we can fix a pothole, but we can't fix like massive expansion of 1 to 2
Yeah,
inches.
all right, so we're gonna probably approve this project, and we'll have a nice new paved area, but then what? Are we gonna have?
We slurry seal. We do maintenance. We slurry sealed out here. We've slurry sealed a couple of different areas over the last few years. So we'll look after it and make sure it lasts for
That's what I'm
another
looking
30
for.
years.
All right.
Sir.
Do you want that in writing?
No.
Would you like to see the photos?
Yeah, could you
We-
bring up a couple of the
Yeah, I would
photos?
like to see the photos too.
What you're
Yolanda,
saying is we're gonna
yes.
wait 30 years to do it again, so we better take care of it.
Extend useful life by slurry seal.
Anthony would want to see the photos too.
Yeah, he
There
would.
you go. There you go.
Looks a
It does
little
look
worse
like-
than my HOA.
It does look like there's been some patching and stuff going on.
Yeah, so that tape measure is about 14 inches across,
Yeah.
and that's just a typical area. It's not a unique area. That's another one, just without the tape
Yeah, I
measure.
get it. No, they've been applying something in the cracks. I can see it now. I didn't see it very well when I looked at it yesterday.
And typically in the hot weather we have here, it doesn't take long for that sealant to just melt right down into that crack.
Yeah.
No, I know. We have them in our neighborhood, and it's only a matter of time before you have to go in and redo
Oh,
that
yeah, no, that's right.
pavement. All right, so
Right.
what's the pleasure of the board on 9D?
I would move approval.
there a second? What was it, 2.4 million?
2.5.
2.5 million? It's a lot, but it's like 3.5 acres.
That's a lot. If we put solar over the top, would that slow it down?
Wouldn't fix the pavement.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Pass 4-0 with one
That
absent.
was a tough one. They're getting tougher.
Oh, it's
They are
expensive.
getting tougher.
They're getting more expensive each one. The first one was easy.
You're not wrong. It is going up.
Yeah, so then 9E.
So you'll be happy to know we're on the home stretch. The last item is a request to approve solicitation of bids for construction of Reservoir 6631, 1 and 2. The estimated project cost is $5 million. The project will be paid for using pay-go funds. We did include this in this year's CIP in the amount of $5 million. And certainly this project's needed because we're at the end of useful life of the 2 coating systems. Coating systems generally have a 20-year life expectancy. That number is actually going down a little bit with new coating systems, primarily because of AQMD regulations. They've had to change the formulas. And 6631-2, which is the newer of the 2 reservoirs, we're currently at 28 years on that coating system.
28?
28, yeah.
Okay.
And as a result of that, the reason for our higher project costs is we are seeing some structural failures, so we do have to do some structural rehab of that reservoir. The first coating system is actually in slightly better condition, but that is a much, much older system. And so once we remove that, get into a regular coating system, then we can extend the useful life of both of those reservoirs. And we do need both of them to remain in service. One is 1 million gallons, and the second is 4 million gallons.
So 5 million altogether. okay.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So that's $1 a gallon.
Yeah, for capacity, yeah.
Yeah.
To provide a little bit of further explanation, part of the higher costs is deferral of maintenance. So the longer that maintenance is extended for, we start to get into the structural repairs that are necessary. So if we can get on a more regular schedule, we do about 1 a year. That's what's included in the CIP. If we could extend that to more than 1 a year, we can get on a more regular maintenance schedule and not have to pay for the structural repairs that are quite extensive. And that's primarily what's affecting this project cost. I will say that with the second reservoir, we're at a fork in the road. If we do not rehab it, we have to take it offline because it is becoming a safety issue.
So what is the time frame from construction, from bid to completion?
It'll be a little bit less than a year to get through this, and then we would prioritize the 4 million gallon, which is in the worst condition. So we'd keep the 1 million gallon in service, rehab the 4, and then vice versa.
I'd move approval.
Second?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, good. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pass 4-0 with
5
one.
for 5. Well done.
Yeah,
Don't bring it
Very-
up, Jim.
very logical organization.
Yeah, no, very logical. The 4th one was harder than the 5th one, actually.
But you were so
Yeah.
happy when everything's constructed and built. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, David, I think you're back up here. This is 9F, which is the adopting, this is an annual requirement that we adopt this levy of 11 cents per $100 of assessed value for the state water. Go ahead.
Right, yeah, no change in, recommended in the rate, so we want to keep that at the 11 cents per 100 of assessed value. This will generate approximately 103 million in property tax revenue for the state water project system. These are the resolutions that we need to approve each year for Riverside and Imperial County to go ahead and authorize the collection of the tax. Since 2023, we've included the economic analysis provided by NBS based on that case to just demonstrate that the state water project tax is still the most economical way to
Yeah, I saw
fund those
that.
costs.
I saw that, so that's great. I mean, I think we were looking at projections, go back in time, that we might have more revenue than we need, but now with the extra water deliveries, it seems like it's actually matching up pretty well.
Yeah, that and, you know, our supplemental water supply in Sites Reservoir is gonna get a big bump in, cost, based on the most recent, estimation of construction costs, so, and then you've got DCP right following that, so there's plenty of good reason to, you know, keep it at this 11 cents and, going forward, because we have our existing cost, and then we can see that in order to ensure adequate water supplies for the futures, we've got some two big projects that are big additional costs as well.
I agree. Okay. Is there a motion to adopt this levy?
So move.
But before we take a vote on this one, recommend doing this in two separate motions since we're submitting to Riverside County
Okay.
and Imperial
Okay.
County separately.
I would make a motion to approve the 11 cents per, oh wait, hang on. The 11 cents per $100 of assessed value for 2026 tax roll for Riverside County.
There you go.
Second.
We have a motion, a second for Riverside County. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed 4-0 with one absent.
And then I'd make an additional motion to approve 11 cents per $100 of assessed value for the 2026 tax roll for Imperial County.
Second.
We have a motion, a second for Imperial County. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed 4-0 with one absent.
Two
Boy,
for two.
we're sailing through today. No written communications that I'm aware of? No? None came in. We have this report to be filed. I noticed the attachment was just payments made to people. But is there also a requirement for payments made to vendors?
No, so I'll just briefly, and then Sarah can fill in whatever I don't say, but it's just an annual requirement that the district is required to file a report, and it just shows a reimbursement to employees and board members for any expenses for travel.
Right, education reimbursements, et cetera,
And
per
education.
diems, yeah.
So we just have to officially put it on an agenda, so we just put it under file. We don't necessarily need to discuss
Okay.
it, but
No
we'll have to
action.
do this annually.
Yeah, no action required. Yeah, I was expecting to see a really long list with all the vendors on it. I'm like, oh, it's just employees. Okay, fair enough. Then we have a presentation on the ERP and utility billing systems implementations. Samantha,
Hello again.
hi.
So good afternoon, President Powell. Good afternoon, directors of the board. My name is Samantha Lopez. I am here to present the quarterly update for the ERP and utility billing system. This is our program timeline. We are implementing in 3 project phases. Phase 1 is the Spry Point Utility Billing Project. Phase 2 is the Workday Financials and HCM HR and Financial Implementation Project. And then Phase 3 is going to be the Workday Financial Planning Implementation. I won't spend a lot of time on this slide. The only item I will note is that in the deployment phase for the first Spry Point project implementation, it was extended by 1 month to September 13th due to allowing us more time in the tax roll process before we move into the new system. So this is another slide of timeline. Here we're highlighting the deployment phases. After each deployment phase, we're going to have stabilization periods with the vendors, where the vendors are going to help with any needed process adjustments or configurations during the deployment phase. The Spry Point is going to have a 16-week stabilization period. The Workday Financial and HR system will have a 12-week stabilization period, and then the Adaptive, which is our budget, will have a 4-week stabilization period. So during the last quarter, our partner, Barry Dunn, completed various activities to help support the project success. Both the Workday and SpryPoint projects are in the configuration and testing phases, and they are progressing on track and on schedule. Overall, the project is in green status. Issues were yellow at this time due to some pending decisions surrounding the system of record. Those decisions have since been made, and we're configuring the implementations and integrations as we speak. This slide is the Workday project milestones and deliverables. All milestones are on track with a green status indicator. So for the Workday project summary, over the last quarter, we completed activities from the architect phase, which helped define the configuration requirements to build our first tenant, our system. This tenant platform is now being used by district employees for hands-on testing to validate and verify the setup. Unit testing began on June 30th and will continue through October 31st for 18 weeks. This is just the first testing cycle. We'll go through another end-to-end after we get through the first phases. Configuration gets updated, and then we'll go through a last testing cycle before we go live. Over the next 3 months, we will continue to focus on unit testing and integration build. We have also finalized the phase 1 of integration requirements and received district approval to begin building the necessary integrations to the system. Now I'm going to hand it over to my co-project manager, Matt Grigsby, to provide an update on the progress of the SpryPoint project.
Good afternoon. The first 3 slides that we're going to be looking over include milestones for the baseline configurations of some of the platforms for the SpryPoint environment. SpryEngage serves as our customer portal, and SpryMobile as our service order management system. Several milestones are tied to testing the SpryPoint environments, including data validation, extraction, and conversion activities, along with several configuration items related to the SpryCIS platform, which handles the primary utility billing processes. On this slide, this is depicting the recent accomplishments and upcoming activities for the SpryPoint implementation. As you can see, we are working through several phases in parallel, with the analysis phase sitting at 78% complete, configuration at 44% complete, and testing and training at 3%. Staff are continuing to work diligently on all aspects of the implementation, with participation from multiple departments of the district. In the coming months, SpryPoint and CVWD staff will be working on delivering enhancements to the system, participating in ongoing functional testing and data validation activities, while continuing to refine configurations across the SpryPoint platforms. This is the slide we wanted to get to. On this slide, you'll actually see the current CVWD billing statement alongside early mock-up of the statement designed by CVWD staff. To design this mock-up, we formed a work group comprised of the staff from customer service, customer billing, water management, and communication divisions. Staff from these divisions have regular interactions with customers regarding their billing statement, making their input especially valuable. Aside from the visual update to many of the graphic elements, notable differences also include a shift of the payment coupon from the top of the statement to the bottom, and the water budget graph displaying a single line that represents the top end of their water budget prior to hitting the higher tiers. In the new statement, elements such as the bill detail, meter reading sections will display the same level of detail as our current statement does. Before SpryPoint starts any development on the new billing statement, we wanted to give the board an opportunity to provide any feedback. And with that, I'll pause here for any feedback or to answer any questions.
Is this bill mock-up, is that bill going to be just a static bill, or is it something you can see online that you might be able to click through and get historical data and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so SpryPoint, like the SpryEngage environment, you'll be able to see a consumption graph outside of the bill. The actual bill itself will be static though. So you'll have like a PDF where you could go view the PDF. You'll have a consumption graph on the customer portal.
Kind of what we have now, right? The
Similar.
PDF is a static view of the bill itself, but then there are other ways to get the information.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, here comes the big
We're all
guns.
about to be corrected here.
I don't want to spend any more money,
No,
Luis.
we're in the process of it. There's no going back, by the way. But so now we're gonna have a customer portal where you can have access to more information. The payment system is separate, so just pointing that out. And right now, by the way, we do already have graphs in the new billing system and payments rather that is syncing with the current technology. We did that about a couple of months ago. So those are there already. You can see it. It's digitized. But yeah, this is going to be a customer portal and a payment system. And we're going to have them closely together so you can go back and
So
forth.
for the portal, for all of these things, for the online version, imagine it'll work with a smartphone. Can you
Yes.
enable Face ID with this? So we don't have to keep remembering our password every month?
Well, if your Face ID is enabled, it will pull the password from the Passwords app and it will populate it for you.
That's
that-
what I do, John, is
Yeah.
it's,
Really? I
Yeah.
don't know why mine doesn't work.
so it's saved in my phone and I just
Yeah.
click it and there it is and I pay it and it's done.
Okay.
We can check it out for you if you want. That's it. Thank you.
So real quick, what's the thinking on not including every tier and just the tier 2 rate? I found it interesting when I've had leaks, it's like, oh my gosh, oh yeah, there's the top of tier 5 or tier 4. So I have found those graphs useful and I just wondered what the thinking was to just put tier 2 on there.
Yeah, I figured, I've heard some history about the graph. The tier, so the graph is what staff get the most questions about when they're reviewing the bill with the customer. So part of the problem with the graph that we've heard from the customers is that this almost looks like, if you're not paying attention to the legend, like this is how much water I have to use.
Oh, got it.
Like that's been our problem. And
Yeah,
so
I
we
can
kind of
see
wanted to
that.
set a limit to be like, hey, this is where you should be,
Right.
as opposed to, hey, you got room to grow up here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. I mean, that customer on the right looks like they're in tier 3 a lot, huh?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Maybe even tier 4.
yeah, maybe.
They're not in tier 4. It
Oh,
gives
yeah.
you the breakdown on the current charges side as to
It
how
should be in
far
the
you are.
attachment, but I have some copies of the bills if you
If you don't reach tier 4 or tier 5, will those rates appear on the bill or will they just be blank?
They won't appear. Yeah, it'll only show up to the rate that you get to.
Yeah. Just thinking out loud, and I'm not here to critique or anything, but if you saw those rates, you might say, "Oh, I'm for sure don't want to go into those tiers."
Yeah.
Well, we get that with Edison. I am an Edison customer for energy.
Mhm.
I'm sure John is too, over there on the west side of the valley.
Yeah.
And they, I don't know that it's on every bill. I think it is, but they send you a thing. So I see it. It says, during these hours, this time of use, during these hours, it's like triple. I mean, the rate is much, much higher between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. And so it really does have, it should have a very strong impact on the customer behavior, right? Like if you have an electric car, you're never going to charge it between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. You'll wait. I mean, I think that type of information can be very helpful for influencing customer behavior, because they would see that it's a double or something like that rate.
Yeah.
And you don't want to go
They're not
there.
gonna see it till they go over.
And until it's too late, yeah.
Yeah, like, so in essence, having a 0 at tier 4, a 0 at tier 5 in terms of the consumption.
Exactly.
In that bill detail area.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I mean, maybe just have some, having access to the information is.
Because it's also an element we could put on the back
But
of the
yeah,
bill.
what you're saying, it's not just the rate, it's how much room do I have before I hit that? Because you know what your budget is, but you don't know when you get to the top of tier 3.
Yeah, if you go up, yeah, exactly. So if you go up to the budget's, let's say 40 units, and you only hit 38, it's like, hey, I did pretty good against my budget. But if you go to, if you're at 44 units, then you don't know when you would go from tier 3 into tier 4. And, you know, I don't know, for those of us who look at that stuff, maybe it's important, but.
Yeah, it's not really there.
Well, Matthew said that we can add an element in draft new bill and provide that information with like a little arrow saying, for more information on your budget, look behind or something. So take that feedback and then we'll probably come up with something else.
Or you mentioned, Matt, maybe put a zero consumption in tiers 3, 4, 5 with the rate over there. If that showed up, that might be.
Yeah, that'd be
Oh,
easy.
yeah, look, I only went to tier 2, so look how well I'm
Just
doing.
list all the tiers, and if you don't hit it,
That'd be
zero.
easy to do. If there's
Not the
room.
developer, but I'm hoping.
We will have the need to add at least one other line item to the bill for a small, about 4,000 individuals because of a lawsuit that we've had.
And there is a messaging board section right above the coupon.
So this would be a percent of the total bill that certain customers would have to pay. In addition to our fees, we add on a utility user
Got it.
fee.
And
So
they should be able to customize that to
Don't we
just
already have
that
some of
demographic
those?
of customers as
we
well.
do already have some of those for
Coachella.
Indio and Coachella.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have conservation messaging as well.
Right,
currently.
yeah, but these are actual parts of the bill that they're expected to pay, not just messaging.
So it might need to be a bill detail item.
If that's what the tiers are, yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it-
under
it-
that current charges.
It would make sense, yeah, underneath current charges, it would be
Yeah, on
another
the new
line.
bill. On the old bill, it's bill detail.
Yeah, but it could be a line item under current charges. To throw that in there, and it would say, you know, whatever the entity name is,
Right.
10% surcharge. There it is.
Yeah, I have a question. If someone lives in a development where they have a meter, but their bill comes to them on a monthly basis consolidated with other utility charges from the management company of that particular development, and it's not broken down like this, usually, like in my case, it's just as the current month and the previous month usage. Is there a way that that homeowner can then, well, in my case, I'm on leased land, where that person can then somehow dig deeper at some level to get this for that particular property?
It depends on how the budget's set up. Some of those properties with like looped meters, they share a budget, so you might have 5 meters working out on one budget. And so that might not be possible to get to that granular detail. If it's a batch billing scenario, in other words, 1 meter per customer, and they just aggregate the bill into one statement, they could get that level of detail.
I mean, do you have your own meter?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if they're just getting a batch billing scenario, I'm sure your meter has an assigned
And your
amount.
meter is a CVWD meter, it's not a local community meter, yeah.
Yeah, so there should be a way for them to extract
Should be a way
that
to
for
do
you.
that. Okay, good. Thanks.
Assuming it's you, I don't know if you were speaking on behalf of somebody else.
Oh,
Let me just make sure I understand the issue here. You do not, even though you have your own individual CVWD meter, you don't get a bill from CVWD.
no.
So nobody reads that meter, is what I'm thinking.
Well, that's not what we're told. We're told is that the meter is read by the management company,
But not by CVWD.
but not by CVWD, and then the bill that we get includes not just our water charge, but our gas, which also has a separate meter.
Yeah,
Mm.
so
and
we
garbage
wouldn't
and
have
other
any
charges.
We wouldn't have
information
any
at
detail on
all.
It's like a
for
sub-meter system.
So then it wouldn't even be a CVWD meter.
It may not be a CVWD meter, but it may be. I mean, I don't know. We had an issue with a mobile home park that had looped meters that had for irrigation, and we were charging them sanitation based on those meter reads. And they said, whoa, this is not just sanitation, this is also irrigation. And we said, okay, well, you can separate that at your expense, and then we can help you with the billing. And they said, well, how about if we have individual meters for all of the mobile homes? And we said, sure, we can do that for you too. There is a cost associated with that. And they said, well, how about if you also provide sewer billing for each of those individual meters. It's like, okay, but for residential, we do it by parcel number. And right now, it's just one big parcel. So if you want to subdivide your parcel to allow us to do that sanitation billing, we'd be happy to do that for you as well. We never went anywhere on any of that stuff. I think they may be working to do separate irrigation from their domestic, but again, that's their expense, and if they don't come to us to do anything, we don't do anything.
No, I got it. Thank you.
Great.
Good.
A gratuitous
I'll take-
comment
great,
from
yeah.
the GM.
I'll take that back, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Sammy on cleanup.
Oh, no, go back. Go back.
Hold on, she'll open it up for you. And go back too far. Yolanda, can you open up the PowerPoint again, please?
We're going to be on the budget slide.
13.
Budget summary. Yeah, number 13.
Thank you. The budget is currently on track. The line item for CVWD internal staff was originally estimated at $500,000 per year. While it may appear over budget, it's not actual an overage. We simply need to reallocate already budgeted labor costs to the capitalization project. This is more of a fund shift than an increase in total expenditures. Overall, the program is in green status. The Workday project is currently in the architect and configuration stage and is progressing on track. The Spry Point project is in the analyze, configuration, and testing phase and progressing on track. That is all for our update, unless anyone has any questions.
No, thanks so much.
Yeah, I'm on a different board, not in the, you wouldn't know who it is probably, but they just did this, and we just approved a budget yesterday for $15 million for their system.
Yeah.
So apparently that's the price.
Yes, it is increasing.
Yeah, I would just say that I am very impressed and pleased with all of the involvement, not only from the consultants that we've hired on our behalf to help us, but from staff. This is going very well. It's a huge endeavor in addition to everything else that staff's required to do on a daily basis. We've provided some temporary additional manpower where we can, but I am just, this can turn bad quickly, and so far we've been able to avoid that. So only through your good work and efforts. So thank you all very much.
I concur, Jim, that these types of projects can turn into a nightmare, and it's the staff and that is putting the effort and the commitment to it to make it better for the future that is so very important. So thank you very much, everyone.
Very lucky to have the folks we have involved.
We are. I agree. Okay, so this gets us to board general comments. Director Nelson?
I think I already made the comment about the site's reservoir increase in cost, but they also did get 2 permits, an in-stream alteration permit and another from Fish and Wildlife. So those are 2 key permits. I think the only one remaining is the water diversion right permit, which is through the State Water Resources Control Board, and they've been looking at that. And so if that is approved, construction could start by the end of 2026, I believe. So all good news there. Which will obviously put a investor commitment period for those of us who are involved in, participating. So we'll be looking for that here shortly too. That's my only comment.
Thank you.
Joe, I just want to mention and congratulate and compliment our finance management and staff for having received the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. It is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting and it represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. So kudos to everybody and who was involved in making this happen.
Yes. Well said.
Ditto.
Vice President Estrada.
No comments other than what you've already said. Congratulations.
Yeah. You know, I might as well mention it now. We have a board public finance committee meeting on Monday scheduled. I'm on call for jury duty, so I'd say it's probably better than 50% I'll be able to attend.
Yeah.
Because it's that first Monday, you know? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
Usually-
you'll know Sunday night,
I'll know Sunday night, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying,
worst case we can move it.
that's just the fact of life. I'm doing my duty.
Thank you, John.
Hang 'em high, yeah. So, I didn't really have any other comments, but I did want to clarify that that's my
Potential.
my possible dilemma on Monday. On to meetings. See, Bianca's not
Future
here.
agenda items? No future.
Oh, do we have any future agenda items being requested by
No.
board members? No. Thank you. July 10th, California 4 Ford meeting was actually here, or here in Palm
And
Desert.
Palm Desert.
Yeah, in Coachella Valley at least. We had our team there, and there were a lot of other teams there.
Right? Trying to figure out how to take a share of the structural deficit or evaporative and system losses in the lower basin that would participate in saving water behind Lake Mead and Lake Powell. And it was a robust discussion, I thought. I appreciated the fact that we're not agreeing to the initial numbers that were thrown out and trying to be thoughtful about what can work for all the districts and parties and respect our relationship with Metropolitan Water District as well as the investments that we've made in QSA. So.
And just to follow up on that, the next meeting is to occur on Monday, August 4th in San Diego.
In San Diego, right.
Right.
No, I'll be attending that, and I think Robert will as well.
Good. Yeah, I think I'll be there as well.
Yeah, I'll be there too.
It's not on the board calendar, but
Oh, my God.
I don't think they've set a location or a time. yet,
Yeah,
have
they have.
Have
They have. It came out. I'll forward it to you. So
Okay, all right.
Okay, please.
I don't know what that is.
it's changed once already, so it might
But
change.
it's a San
again.
Diego County Water Authority building, right?
Yeah,
Is it?
Yeah.
Their
I don't
headquarters
even know where that is. I've never been there. I look forward to it.
yeah.
I'll take it from Jim's calendar, it's on his calendar, and I'll send it to you both from the board calendar.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then there was the Disadvantaged Community Infrastructure Task Force meeting on July 16th.
I missed that.
Yeah, I was on, Carrie runs that meeting very well. Appreciate that. And I was on the Zoom or Teams or whatever that was online on that. And just running through the projects, actually getting some connection now, which is a long time coming, which is great. I think somebody suggested we do another ceremony, but I think we've already done the ceremony, yeah.
Who suggested that?
Pedro, yeah.
Because of the completion? Oh, yeah. Of 66? Okay. Yeah, we did a big one. It was,
Carrie's like, wait, we already did that.
That was the.
It's a big deal.
It is. It's a great project. Thank you.
Salton Sea Authority, Director Aguilar.
I missed
and
it,
Estrada.
John.
I was there. Big takeaway was a presentation. Some folks that call themselves Community Science at the Salton Sea. It's a partnership between Alianza and other folks. There's a number of academic folks involved in that. Some students from Brown University, I believe from other universities, Ryan Sinclair, and they had I've actually kind of heard a little bit about this before. It was a presentation that was made last year at the Desert Healthcare District. They they had like a symposium, and this resident, Diego, presented on the rotten smell, he calls it. They have, the way they frame this is, they say, what is community science and why do we use it? And the concern is, the community's concerned about the rotten egg smell in the air, which I think you've heard a little bit from Dr. Lowe.
Yeah.
So it's a continuation of that conversation. And so, what they try to do is they try to collaborate, and part of their statement is community scientists work together with academic scientists to collect water and air quality data from the Salton Sea, and they analyze it and they share the data. And what they're trying to do is they're really trying to, I think, gather more information on the hydrogen sulfide. They're trying to figure out where it's coming from. They're trying to make use of the limited air quality monitors that are out there. Doesn't sound like there's a lot. It sounds like
There's 3 of them.
well, there's 3 in Riverside County, I think, and then there's 1 in Imperial County.
Imperial County, okay.
And so they're using those, which has very limited data, and then I think they've some folks through the help of the nonprofits have actually installed their own monitors, but the question is whether they have the same type of specifications that would be needed to really make use of them. So the whole conclusion of this whole thing was that it seems like there is a need to try to figure out where the concentrations of the hydrogen sulfide are located, whether they're and how they're impacting the surrounding communities. Folks seem to think that it could be information that can be provided to the state so that they can align their 10-year plan with it, so that it seems right now that the 10-year plan, what it tries to do is it tries to mitigate the dust emissions, but it's really not driven by any information related to the hydrogen sulfide. So there's a thinking that maybe if there was enough data to suggest that there are particular high concentrations of this hydrogen sulfide, that somehow you might be able to align or prioritize some of the mitigation that's happening with the 10-year plan. But it seems like there's a lack of data. I think there's going to be a call to have the both air quality boards at each side of the counties to work together to try to take ownership of this issue. It does seem like it's something that the community has been trying to maybe resolve on their own through the help of these nonprofits and other university professors that are trying to answer these types of questions. But I think it's getting to the point where they're trying to kind of pass on some of the responsibility to the air districts. There were folks there at this meeting in particular to hear this presentation. The Regional Water Quality Control Board was there. The executive director was there. There were folks from the Imperial County Air District, and I think that there's going to be some conversations that are going to start happening where more folks are going to come together, more of the air quality folks are going to come together and take some ownership of trying to answer these questions. There was already a meeting some time ago that was put together where folks were able to visit Owens Lake to try to see how that model could be used, how we could replicate that model with the monitors and then the type of notices that go out when there are issues. I think at a minimum that's what some folks are trying to replicate, is being able to say, okay, there's some air quality issues related to the to the smell, and you know, how do we put that information out to the community. So I think there's going to be another trip that's scheduled maybe sometime by the end of the year, and to kind of start trying to figure out how to try to replicate that that program. I think that the bigger issue here is Owens Lake has a big budget to work with. There's folks that are on the hook from a budget perspective, and we don't seem to have that here. So someone's gonna have to try to come up with the money to implement some type of program. But it was a good presentation. I'll pass it along if you guys want to see it.
Yeah, LADWP at the Owens Lake has deep pockets.
Yeah, they're throwing a bunch of money at that thing, right?
They've, a lot of money,
Yeah.
like over $1 billion.
Not necessarily voluntarily.
That is correct. I would say South Coast Air Quality Management District puts out, I don't know if this is an app, or I think it's an app. It's their hydrogen sulfide app. And there are the 3 sites in Riverside County,
Yeah.
north of the sea. And it gives me an alert when it gets above 300 parts per billion. But it has historical data, so you can go back and collect all the historical data. You can export it off their site and everything. It's really pretty cool. And it's at Mecca Community Site, Indio Amistad High School, and near North Shore
Yeah.
site.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty cool. And I could understand how there would want to be more data points to
Yeah.
that to kind of see where it's coming from and so forth. But I've followed this pretty closely, and it's what they put out is pretty cool stuff. If they could just put a few more sites in there, that
Yeah,
that would be
one of the
helpful.
things that they've found out is that since about maybe 2021, the one that's further out, maybe the one in Indio, hasn't had any, like all of a sudden it had a bunch of history and then it hasn't had any history. And
Oh, maybe it's
Chairman Mireles said that he had heard at CVAG or something that it hasn't been working for some years.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so that was like an issue that,
Yeah.
so it was a question of, because it didn't, there was no historical data for it.
Sometimes though it comes in, it's like 150. I'm like, oh yeah, it's a smelly day.
Yeah.
Isn't Manny chair of the air quality board?
Who is?
Manny?
I'm not sure if he's the chair. I know he's on it.
He's on it, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that he's the
That should
chair.
help.
Yeah,
Yeah, that should help.
That
Yeah.
should help.
yeah. Fix the sensor.
Yeah, fix the sensor.
Are there any other meetings for reporting?
Yeah, John, on July 21st, there was a Section 5 contractors meeting, talking a lot about the 7 basin states process and how broken it is. Interesting, Robert kind of forwarded on a video to you and I about the state of Nebraska having issues of water rights on the South Platte River. Interestingly enough, when I went to the Getches conference, I visited a nephew of mine who we irrigated on the South Platte River, so upstream of that, and it was super interesting and how they irrigate and what the systems are. But in any case, it's no meters, nothing like that. It's put a piece of plastic in front of your diversion site to stop it. Anyway, very interesting. But the state of Nebraska wants to utilize their 1923 compact rights on the South Platte River. And interestingly enough, Colorado's been diverting a lot of that water over the years to what they say a tune of, in aggregate, 1 million acre-feet of water. And so Nebraska is no longer going to be Nebraska nice to Colorado, and they're taking the issue up at the Supreme Court level, going straight to the Supreme Court. That's their strategy, and pretty interesting stuff. I commented to JB that we shouldn't be California Collaborative then. Maybe we should be California Compact. But I think they are different rivers. But at the same time, I think it's indicative that Colorado's not playing nice on water rights anywhere on their in their sphere of influence. So pretty interesting stuff. One thing is that there's going to be a greater inclusion of people at the 7-state process, and so Robert can't go to one of the upcoming meetings, but Steve will be there, for Steve Abbott, on our behalf. So I think that's a good move right there.
Good, thank you.
Good.
Any others? Is there a motion to approve per diem for the meetings that were reported on?
I'll so move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, pass 4-0. General manager,
I have nothing today, sir.
council.
As you can tell, I'm not Jeff Foray. I'm Jeremy Helm with BPK. I usually show up 1 or 2 times a year to cover a meeting when Jeff can't be here. But just thanks for having me today.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
Picked a nice cool day to come out to the Coachella Valley.
Yeah, in that suit you got there.
Do we have any departmental reports?
Yes, sir. We do have, Robert would like to come up and make an introduction. A couple
Oh, yeah.
comments.
Yeah, great. Robert?
Good afternoon, President Powell, members of the board. I have behind me, or next to me. So please say your name because I'm probably going to mess it up.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Camila Bautista, and I am part of the Water Education Foundation's 2025 Water Leaders. So I'm learning all about California's water issues this year, and particularly our topic is modernizing water rights. So we were taking the entire year to kind of dive deep into that. I also work as the Salton Sea and Desert Program Manager with Audubon, California. So that, you know, I work with birds and wildlife around the Salton Sea, as well as community engagement, and then also work in the surrounding deserts, such as Choquala National Monument. I'm also born and raised in Coachella, so I've been here my whole life. So it's nice to have gone to school and come back and serve my community.
So Camila is also a UCLA graduate. So I was very appreciative that Jen, did not hook me up with a SC, somebody from USC. So anyways, very happy to have her sit in on today's board meeting. And I told her, sometimes it takes a little bit longer, because there's more discussion, but today was extremely smooth. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah. Nice.
Robert,
Welcome.
so this is part of the Water Education Foundation? The reason that she's here?
Right. It's an annual program, so
Yeah.
they kind of match up,
Yeah. So she,
He's my mentor.
okay, but you're not gonna be with us for a while?
I mean, I'm around, but
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood what the situation was, but okay, thank you, I understand.
yeah, he'll be my mentor for the rest of the year.
All right,
Yeah.
good, thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Good luck on that water rights modernization.
Yeah, we kind of like the ones we have. Okay. At this time, the board will recess into closed session to consider the items shown on the agenda. We will reconvene to open session following that for a report out. The regular meeting is reconvened. We do not have any reportable action from closed session, and with no further business, we are adjourned.